Eat my shit.
What makes a character a waifu? There comes a point in every man's life when we have to ask ourselves this question. Many have tried to answer it and many have failed. So I, a 17-year-old weeaboo who never leaves his room, thus making him a burden to society and those around him, causing him to constantly consider suicide as the only escape from the hell he's living, has decided that instead of doing something productive with my life, I'll answer that question for all who dare ask it, by comparing the waifus in two series quite similar in terms of premise and character archetypes, Bakemonogatari and Strike the Blood. Senjo Gahara is a tsundere, a trope that I absolutely despise. Making the main heroine a tsundere has become extremely popular in recent years, and it's not as if it's hard to figure out why. Aside from the fact that a large number of people like them, for some reason, they also have one of the easiest character arcs to write.
I hate you, so how can I love you?
This tends to be the inner turmoil with most tsunderes, and it's an easy way to explain why they won't talk like human beings and just tell the guy you want to fuck him! This gives the writer an easy excuse to prolong any romance for as long as they want. But with tsunderes becoming so popular, each one starts to feel the same, and you start to notice the same events happening to each of them, meaning that what might have originally been somewhat charming is now just shitty writing that the creator might justify with,
But everyone else does it.
And that's the problem. Everyone else does it. Everyone writes tsunderes as characters who viciously attack our main character for no reason. Everyone writes scenes where they blush over the smallest thing. Everyone has them fall in love either for no reason or due to a set of circumstances so specific that the likelihood of it ever actually happening is so small that it might as well have not been explained in the first place. There are numerous other trends that you might see within tsunderes. For instance, if I see a character with bright hair being highlighted the most in the cover art of any series, I can tell that's probably a tsundere without having even watched the show. All of this is important to know because that's exactly why I immediately fell in love with Senjo Gahara. She both follows what's conventional for the trope to a T, while also doing things no other tsundere would do. She's both shy with her emotions and will snap at Araragi, while also showing some initiative and actually asking him out. She's both a tsundere and Senjo Gahara. This is great since it means that both the tsundere gays get to see her as a trope they love, and people with actual good taste get to see a genuinely interesting character. There are numerous other things about her that just breathe life into this completely dead trope. For instance, she wastes absolutely no time. Like, we have the opening 2 episodes where she's introduced to the main character, and during the arc that follows she confesses her feelings for him. And not in some roundabout way which Araragi could easily misinterpret, but straight up,
I love you.
She even pressures Araragi into giving her an answer, as if to mock how other series would openly let the audience know about the character's feelings, and then do nothing to develop said feelings, thus wasting everyone's time. This show didn't make a big deal out of her understanding her feelings for him, because why would she? He seems like a nice guy, and he definitely cares about her, considering how far he was willing to go to help her, so aside from the minor embarrassment of the act itself, there's no real reason why she shouldn't go out with him. After all, if she doesn't confess now, someone else might at some point. This decision the show made to create a relationship between the two so early on led to a new and interesting take on the dynamic that they would share. She can still have the typical hiding her feelings for him that every tsundere does, but now whatever she does express are things that you get out of an actual relationship, like asking him out on a date instead of your stupid anime horseshit. Another thing that I definitely feel needs to be noted in what made Senjo Gahara stand out as a great character is Chiwa Saito's unique portrayal of what a tsundere could be. Okay, I'll admit that this might sound like now I'm just making up reasons for why she was such a great character. I mean, who even cares about voice actresses? I had to look up her name for the fucking script. But she added so much depth to Senjo Gahara as a character. I honestly don't think I would have even noticed that she was a tsundere if the show itself hadn't pointed it out on numerous occasions, purely because of her portrayal of the character. Instead of getting the typical "shut up," we were given a much more deadpan and cold tone. This might just seem like a small, unimportant thing to most people, but it made her character feel insanely different to everything a tsundere has been, and makes her seem like a completely unique character. In contrast, let's see how Strike the Blood treats its tsundere. Don't like it! Oh god. The first thing you'll notice about the tsundere girl is that she's not human. And while I could see you arguing that case for any character, at least they have the capacity to trick me into thinking that they're humans within the context of the show they're in. All I see when I look at the tsundere girls is tsundere girl. And that goes for everything, from the fact that she does all the cliches I specifically pointed out as bad and boring and reasons to kill yourself, to her that, to her outright boring character design. Now, I know what you might be thinking. How is her character design bad? It has a nice colour scheme and the white and blue is a great contrast to her hair colour. And to those people, let me clarify that her design isn't bad, it's just really generic. Which is my biggest problem with everything in this show. It does nothing to stand out from the vast wave of boring light novels. Especially in terms of the general aesthetic. Just take a look at the uniform she wears. A blue and white sailor uniform. I've seen this a million times before. It could be a harem series, slice of life, it could be about a god, or even turn the girl into a goddamn plane. All seeing this uniform does is remind me of other, more interesting series that I've already seen. When I watch a new show, I want to see something, new? And in that sense, a bad design is infinitely superior to a boring one. This is made even worse by her hair, which once again would be fine if it wasn't for the fact that it looks like every anime girl's hair design. And that's all I see when I look at the tsundere. Not a character, but an anime. But you know what? Her design and voice acting, they're only two of the biggest parts about making a great waifu. What about how she's written and the relationship she has with Pro-Tycoon? Well, it's been 34 episodes and they haven't grown any closer together at all. I like the occasional harem now and then. Nisekoi is unironically one of my favourite series because, for the most part, you have no idea who'll win at the end. There are numerous different small stories that our protagonist will have focusing on the relationship he shares with a member of his harem. And here's why that works. Each character is also treated as if they have a legitimate chance of winning, so you feel like whoever you root for could go out with him in the end. Honestly, it's closer to following a sports team than it is to a romantic series, especially with its retarded fanbase. Strike the Blood doesn't treat any of its other characters like that. They're each given an arc devoted to introducing them before they become a supporting character. Even in their own arc, they're usually still secondary to the tsundere girl. I honestly don't even know any of their names. They're treated more like this girl.
Introducing a new character in Volume 14, yeah, my bet's on her. How could she possibly lose to the character we've grown attached to in the last 118 fucking chapters?
The show constantly acts like Pro-Tycoon and the tsundere girl will be together. The final arc of Season 1 even had their future kid come back in time to help them fight a monster. And yes, that is the dumbest thing you've ever heard. The show never commits to the relationship that will obviously happen, making not just her character but the whole series worse. Needless to say, she's a shitty waifu. Hanekawa is a class president among class presidents, a phrase that we're told on numerous occasions throughout the show. And that's what makes her an interesting character. Bakemono Gallery didn't settle on just making her the class president character or token smart member of the harem. The show made her a terrifyingly amazing person. She can do nothing wrong, which is why Aragi treats her almost like a god, someone that he idolizes more than anybody else, a valuable friend that could never be replaced. After all, every time he tells her that she knows everything, her response is, I don't know everything, I only know what I know. The fact that she's not a total cunt despite being better than everyone else just goes to show how amazing she is as a person. But this level of humility, along with everything else about her, only adds to the irony of her evil counterpart, Black Hanekawa.
Pure evil.
Black Hanekawa is an aberration formed by normal Hanekawa's stress. It was created to remove all the elements of her life that cause her problems. It doesn't have any sense of morality, putting numerous different people in the hospital, including her own parents. Black Hanekawa is a representation of how nobody's perfect. She's a representation of how we all need to let go every once in a while. More than that, she's a representation of how, despite having learned everything, Hanekawa knows nothing. Hanekawa doesn't understand how the world works. She might have spent years studying, learning concepts about the world, but she has yet to come to a point where she can actually apply these concepts to her everyday life. This paired with her tragic backstory has led her to become an incompetent member of society, despite having more than enough of the qualifications that should make her stand out. She even recognises this and decides that instead of going to college that she'll travel around the world to gain all the new experiences that she hadn't yet gone through. This choice is something that no normal class president character would make, but it also makes the most sense in terms of turning her into a functioning member of society. So what does the blonde bitch from Strike the Blood do which could even make her half as interesting as Hanekawa? She's a merry, super boring character! Eh? I'll never do that again, I'm sorry. They even give her a canonical reason for plot armor during the second season. Fucking hell. I'm not making that shit up. And yet, despite being what should be an unstoppable powerhouse and key member of Pro Tycoon's harem, she does nothing! Most of her screen time is usually devoted to her wanting to fuck Pro Tycoon, but never actually telling him. Here's a quick question I have for the blonde bitch. Why? I'm sure a mild heartbreak would be infinitely more satisfying than constantly having to live unaware of what might have happened if you had just asked. Now, I've never been in love, so take anything I say about having a crush with a grain of salt, but that just seems like the logical conclusion to come to. Every time I'm left watching a series where the characters have come to terms with the fact that they want to fuck each other, but don't outright say it, usually leaves me feeling frustrated about the fact that just talking about it could easily bring a conclusion to what I can assume is a horrible situation, especially when the character you want to fuck has numerous other characters for them who also want to fuck him! Granted, there are some exceptions. I personally think Onodera from Nisekoi is a top tier waifu, purely because the series is so good at getting across that awkward atmosphere talking to someone you want to go out with creates. From the constant blushing to overthinking every scenario, it's just cute! My only problem is that usually when it comes to people wanting to fuck each other, they have completely normal conversations and then spontaneously blush for seemingly no reason, instead of devoting an entire character interaction to just that blush. Notice how in this scene, she's not embarrassed about the fact that she isn't wearing pants, but the indirect kiss makes her ovaries explode. What an amazing sense of priorities. Fucking 10 out of 10, guys! With all of what I just said in mind, why won't the blonde bitch just confess her feelings? She's in no way awkward when it comes to actually talking to Pro Tycoon, so it stands to reason that she has enough social competence to be able to have a serious conversation about something that could lead to her having a genuinely happier life. She seems like a character with initiative. She breaks the law all the time. Compared to that, how hard is talking? I'm gonna phlegm my... This is weird. Now we have Nadeko, who's another interesting take on a common trope in anime, this time being the moe blob character. What makes Nadeko interesting isn't obvious until the second season, where Nishio-Isin uses her to criticize moe culture. We get a phenomenal plot twist as we find out that the main antagonist of the season is Nadeko. During her transformation into a snake god antagonist, she has an outburst where she tells the audience that treating moe characters as nothing but cute things is a terrible idea and that a real person treated in the same way would hate being seen as nothing more than a doll, because the image otaku has of a person who can't do anything wrong isn't real. Changing Nadeko into the villain was a genius move on Nishio-Isin's part. Prior to this, nobody cared about her at all. She hadn't had any relevance since her introduction in Bakkei, and even then she wasn't that interesting. At the time, her arc was used more to criticize the whole girls only want to suck Pro Tycoon's dick because he's such a nice guy idea, by showing how always doing the nice thing for everyone is a terrible way to live your life and an unrealistic worldview to have. It was a nice idea, but it had nothing to do with Nadeko's character, aside from her being a good choice as a type of person to be a victim. The change that the second season created was completely about her though, making her a genuinely interesting character. Even the way that they ultimately resolved the conflict was about her. It wasn't some big stupid fight for the sake of having a climax, but a conversation about how Nadeko should follow her dreams of becoming a manga artist. She was embarrassed about this dream of hers and hid it from everyone around her, including her family, so when Best Grilled Kaiki tells her that he found out about it, she decided to stop being a literal god because the idea of people finding out about her dumb dream was that embarrassing. Everything about this conclusion is perfect. We get closure to her character arc as well as the second season, and it wasn't some big pointless fight where you obviously knew he was going to win, which is so common these days. It was solved by actually treating her like a human being. Strike the Blood's equivalent to Nadiko's just a moe blob character who did nothing wrong and gets punished anyway. Her entire character's moe, not that she's particularly moe, just that I can't think of any other word that I could use to describe her. This makes her the best character in Strike the Blood by far, based purely on the fact that she's not an annoying slutty cunt like everyone else. Seriously, every other character, including his little sister, have all bickered about who gets to fuck Pro Tycoon, even though he basically fucks all of them at one point or another. At least the show had enough common sense not to do the same thing to Best Girl San, especially not during Season 2, showing that what we thought was them understanding the character's appeal was really the writers forgetting to knock her name off his fucking checklist!
I want to fuck little sisters, not really, that's weird.
What makes Karen and Tsukiji interesting is the same thing that makes Oriimo interesting. It's able to give a realistic portrayal of what actually having a little sister is like, showing that they're annoying little delightful people who I love with all my heart. By far the most interesting part of Nisei Monogatari to me was the conflict of the second arc, which puts Araragi in a situation where he realises that one of his little sisters isn't his little sister, but an apparition that should be defeated. This conflict shows what it means to live with people and have to tolerate them when they're at their worst. Araragi's conclusion to the problem presented is that Tsukiji shouldn't die. He grew up with and loves her. Whether or not she's related to him by blood isn't important. The fact that he cares for his younger sister is. He was able to bond with Tsukiji and get to love her, despite them not being related. This further proves to him the connection he shares with her, which is why he claims she's more real than the real thing. Because of this simple mindset, we were able to believe that the Fire Sisters were real. It doesn't matter how extreme and unrealistic their personalities were, with a relationship based on such a genuine and humane understanding of their archetype, they felt alive. Yamato would strike the blood, so admitted to be jealous of Pro Tycoon's harem and wants him to spend more time with her instead of them. I wonder what message they could have possibly wanted the audience to get from this vague thing that she said. Here's a fun fact. She's still in middle school. We don't have those in Ireland, but I'm pretty sure that makes her about 14, right? So the show wants you to fuck a 14-year-old girl. Okay. Although, now that I think about it, most of us harem are that age or younger. And that's the case in a lot of other harem series as well. Oh no. What am I doing? Why am I just sitting here watching some guy molest a kid? Is this supposed to be funny? Do I enjoy watching this? No. I'm just using it as an excuse not to work towards a better life. Because I'm too scared that if I try to be happy, that I'll fail. That I'll be told that I don't deserve it. With what I'm doing right now, I could always just brush it off as, I wasn't even trying, so of course I failed. You know what? Fuck that.
You understand what I'm saying, where like it's really close to my face, especially with the mask. This phone's not even on. That shit was really gay with going with it anyway. Andy, look, the fucking the person. Oh, fuck you too. Of course, we can be friends. What? Why can't we be friends? But, I mean, it's true. I mean, I'm working on getting some form of money. At that point, would we be? Well, that's what I'm taking your answer is anyway. It's time I set out.